Here I am today at Nash HQ. I've just done an interview with Kev, and sometime in the near future that'll be appearing on all the social media outlets, YouTube and things like that, particularly the Nash channel, and I'll keep you updated about that. I've been in the I've been carp fishing now the best part, well I started properly carp fishing in '86, so we're talking the best part of 32 years. I've been involved in the fishing industry well, almost the same. 1986 I started writing for Carp Fisher, taken on board as an editor, as editorial assistant in '87. So it's well over 30 years I've been involved. Now, I get lots of queries, used to come via letters and things like that. I get loads and loads of queries about various things. But there is one question I get asked time and time again about how to get involved in the fishing industry, in whatever basis. There are two ways that you need to think about. You can work for a company. The chances of you working for a company are 1% in the fishing world. The chances of you actually physically getting or financially getting a full-time job with Nash, Corda, Fox, etc. is very minimal. But for anybody who goes carp fishing and actually enjoys catching carp, there's almost 100% opportunity to be involved in the carp fishing industry. Everybody wants to be a consultant. The problem is that so many people hear about it and think that anybody can be a consultant. The actual amount of people who are proper consultants is actually very small. You hear it talked about all the time, he's a consultant, he's a consultant, he isn't. There are lots of people who are linked to fishing companies and get a bottle of bait, 5% off here, there and everywhere. But the chances of being a proper full-time fishing consultant for a company are there, but you've got to really, really work at it, because it doesn't happen overnight. Because there are more opportunities nowadays, but there are so many more people after those opportunities. So yes, you've got more chance of getting in, but there's more people wanting the job that you want. When I started, there were very few companies. However, you could make yourself stand out with the crowd and get signed on. And in those days, you really had to show your worth. Now, you showed your worth in those days by catching carp and by writing articles, and that was it. If you caught carp, if you wrote fishing articles, were in the magazines regularly, so Angling Times, Angler's Mail, things like that, you got noticed and people came to you. So if you were well known enough and caught enough carp, you would get somebody who would come and have a chat with you, you'd get a letter through the post, and you might get a bit of a bait deal, bit of a tackle deal, and it worked that way. And I do remember in those days, some people would take you on, and the first thing I realised was you always need to be able to prove your worth. Now, I have kept every single thing I've ever written that's been in the papers, so if anybody in those days in the 80s and 90s said, yeah, what have you done for us this year, I could photocopy that, send them, and my contact renewal came through the post. Because it's no good saying I'm popular, I've done a lot for you, if you can't prove it. Now nowadays the world's a lot different because of Instagram, social media, you've got Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can say you are popular, you can say that you do a lot for company, but you can't lie, because they can see how active you are on your Twitter feed, your Facebook feed, YouTube, etc. So there ain't nowhere to hide nowadays. So it is there for them. You can show your worth and it's there. How do you get involved in the fishing industry? Let's talk about Nash. How do you get Nash involved with you and vice versa? Well, the obvious thing is you've got to use the gear to start with. If you were a well-known angler, maybe Nash would want to take you on if you're up for renewal. But for the majority of people, do you really think that Nash Tackle are going to take you on because you've used 5 or 6 other people's gear? You are more than likely going to show some interest or get some interest from Nash if you're actually using the gear in the first place. Sounds daft, but it's one of the first things I say to people when they're using 6 or 7 lots of different gear and say, do you think Nash will take me on? I think, why would they take you on? You don't use the gear for a start. You need to attach yourself to a company by what you buy and what you use. So if somebody's been using Nash bait for 2 or 3 years, catching loads of carp, using our gear for 2 or 3 years and catching loads of carp, then more than likely, if they go and speak to Kevin or Alan at these do's and they can prove that they've been using the gear, then maybe the company will be interested in them. But if you've not been using the gear, I know it sounds daft, how on earth do you think that Nash are going to be interested in you? You also have to remember that You are a reflection of how you behave on social media. And you've got to remember, just like being at work, you are at work 9 to 5, but if you behave out of work badly, you're not going to be kept on. So everything that you post on social media, be it Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, is a reflection of you. So it's no good being a positive influence for Nash Tackle 9 to 5 or at weekends when you're fishing, when all the other stuff that you post is not a good reflection of the company as a whole. So that's something you need to do. So although I'm a Nash consultant for what they do for me, everything I post is a reflection of Nash Tackle, like it or not. If I behave badly, it reflects badly on the people who sponsor me. So sometimes you have to temper yourself. Sometimes when people say things to you that you want to address in a certain way, you've got to remember, how does this look for Nash Tackle, the way I'm behaving on Instagram or social media? I don't just post about fishing stuff on the social media site, I post other stuff. But I always make sure that what I post is positive. People don't want to hear negative stuff on social media. Nash Tackle don't want to hear negative stuff. They want stuff that attracts them to you. So if you want to be a consultant for the firm, you've got to be positive about what you do. It's a major thing. Go out and catch some carp and look like you're enjoying it. You don't have to catch 20 pounders, 30 pounders, 40 pounders or big. Those days are gone. If you catch a 50 pounder, you're not going to have Kevin Nash knocking on your door or Terry Earn. Those days are gone. Consistency is the key in today's world. You need to be out there, you need to have a smile on your face, and you need to consistently deliver the goods. If you're catching carp between 15 and 25 pound on a regular basis, you're portraying yourself in a positive way, you go into the shows, you go into the open days, you're making yourself known, that will help you in being taken on board as a consultant. Think about not what can you get out of the firm, what can you give the firm back? Why would that firm take you on instead of the bloke to your left or to your right? So my view is I want to be as positive an influence as anything. And what makes me stand out for the crowd? What makes me different to the next bloke? So we've all got our own identity, and think about it. Why would they take you on rather than A or C? You've got to really concentrate on that. What makes you stand out? It ain't going to be just one big fish. It ain't going to be you travelling down to Nash and saying, this is who I am. It's what makes you stand out. So consistency of approach, catching lots of carp and being positive. Come to the shows. You know, there are so many fishing shows nowadays. There's Sandown, there's Five Lakes, there's the Northern Angling Show, there's Brentwood, there's the big one. Once your face gets known, it will really help you in being spotted by firms. Everybody gets old. One time I was young Jules, I was a bright face of carp fishing, and then Terry Hearn came along, Alan Blair's come along. Now believe it or not, one day Alan Blair will get old and there will be somebody younger than him coming along. So remember, just because you're young or you haven't been in the public glare does not mean that you can't get to grips and become a consultant. You can be a consultant if you work at it. So my advice to you is, number one, work hard, enjoy what you're doing, and hopefully we'll see you at Nash Tackle.